Need for Speed Rivals has largely flown under the radar for far too long in my opinion. This video will attempt to display my opinion on the game and its features, as well as why I think it failed to meet the community's needs. I'm going to start with the progression system in Rivals. You choose a speed list that has challenges for you to complete, and if you complete said challenges, you move on to the next speed list. The catch is that if you're driving around as a racer, yes, I specified racer because you can also play as a cop, but I'll get into that later. Anyway, if you're driving around as a racer, you accumulate speed points, the game's currency. The catch is that if you're busted by the cops or if you sustain too much damage and wreck, you lose all of it. This feature gained very little attention when Rivals was released, but when the same system was implemented into Heat in 2019, people called it innovative and thrilling. I think that Rivals is just ahead of its time in that sense. Now, as said earlier, you are not locked into solely playing as a racer, and you can switch back and forth between cops and racers at any time in hideouts. As Hot Pursuit had this feature since its launch in 2010. I do think Rivals did it better though, considering that you were locked into certain events in Hot Pursuit with very little reason to play free roam. This leads me to my next point. The easiest way to make money in Rivals is just to play events. Racers and cops have access to different types of events. Racers have races, which are pretty self-explanatory, Hot Pursuits, which are races with cops, Interceptors, which spawn one cop that you have to either evade or take out, and Time Trials, which require the player to drive from point A to point B within the time limit. Cops have similar events that parallel the racers' equivalents. Hot Pursuits as a cop put you as a cop in the race, with the sole goal of stopping all the racers before the race is over. Interceptors have you as the cop in the scenario, attempting to stop the racer before the time limit, and instead of time trials, cops have rapid response events, which are essentially the same as time trials, but with the idea of reaching an accident quickly. You also have the ability to play free roam as either a cop or racer, where you can do head-to-head races or find and escape cops for a reward. As a cop, you can find or bust racers in the game world for a speed point reward. Cops do not have the same all-or-nothing mechanic as the racers and simply accumulate points over time. Upgrades in Pursuit Tech are different between the two factions, with cops automatically unlocking vehicles and their upgrades instantly upon reaching their current level, while racers have to buy and upgrade cars with their speed points. The only thing cops have to spend speed points on is Pursuit Tech. Pursuit Tech can turn the tide of a chase and is extremely impactful in the gameplay. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit first introduced Pursuit Tech, but Rivals took it to another level entirely. Racers have access to the EMP, which locks onto enemy vehicles and disables them, the ESF, which delivers a powerful hit, jammers, stun mines, turbo, which is essentially just a massive speed boost, and shockwave, which repels enemy vehicles near the player. Cops can use other Pursuit Tech better suited to chasing enemies rather than running from them, although some Pursuit Tech is shared between the two factions. This includes shock ram, ESF, EMP, spike strips, helicopters, jammers, and roadblocks. Many people did not like the idea of Pursuit Tech, and Rivals was the last game in the series to use it. The story is split two ways between the factions and is set in the fictional American town of Redview County. In order to complete the entirety of it, you have to play as both a cop and a racer through the entire campaign. The racer follows the player who goes by the name Zephyr, who gains popularity by posting videos on a fictional version of YouTube. Zephyr leads sort of a rebellion against the police and attracts attention and other racers to do the same thing. In response, the police employ the VRT, the FBI's vehicle response team. Zephyr continues to embarrass the police until the arrival of a rival racer that goes by the name Fate, or F8. Fate begins to compete in races, but much to the dismay of the other racers, Fate is much more aggressive and tries to stop the racers rather than winning himself. People start to follow Fate more than Zephyr out of interest, and Zephyr comes to the conclusion that Fate is nothing more than a cop using an impounded Ferrari Enzo, based off of the tactics that Fate employs. Zephyr steals an RCPD Koenigsegg Agera R and wreaks havoc on the police. It ends with Zephyr crashing and the screen turning black until the sound of an engine plays, implying that Zephyr survived the crash. The police campaign follows a similar story, but as the player progresses, they receive faster cars and more promotions until being promoted to the VRT. The player takes on the identity of the aforementioned Fate and starts destroying the racers from within. The final mission is an interceptor with the player, or Fate, chasing Zephyr. It ends with Fate crashing and being fired from the RCPD and the VRT, and then taking on the mantle of Fate as a true racer, still rivals with Zephyr. I think the campaign was pretty good, and I genuinely do think that it is one of the stronger campaigns in the Need for Speed series, as it set the tone for the entire game as a whole, down to the racer and cop AIs being more aggressive than in other games, as well as the overall atmosphere. It doesn't portray the racers or the cops in a very good light, and there is no real clear hero. It's a very morally gray situation. The map and environment are extremely diverse, likely due to the developers not coming to a conclusion of what type of map they wanted it to be or something like that. The environments include a desert, a farm, a coastal town, a pine forest, and a snowy mountain. The environments blend together seamlessly. As you drive down the mountain, the snow slowly dissipates and the tint of the screen fades from a blue to an orange as you enter the desert. This game has held up extremely well graphically, even though it came out only in 2013, around 8 years ago. It goes to show how good the Frostbite engine really can be when it comes to graphics. From the raindrops on the road to the smoke coming from your tires as you drift, with the world blurring around you as your speed increases, Need for Speed Rivals graphics have held up extremely well considering the technology used to create them and the age of the hardware. The Need for Speed community largely disliked this game, and to be honest it is hard to see why. The general complaints are that the game is too buggy or that it's too similar to Hot Pursuit 2010. The game is very similar to Hot Pursuit in spirit, but is essentially a better version of the game. More aggressive police, a better story, and better handling in AI. My only grievance is that you cannot pause the game fully due to the fact that on release, Rivals was only possible to play online. This is no longer the case, however, due to the servers being down or empty. The handling feels grippy, but also makes it easy to drift around corners. The only real glitchy thing I found while replaying the game was the crashing animation after hitting something too hard, which is violent to say the least. In summary, Need for Speed Rivals was overhated and deserved more praise than it got. From the graphics still hold up well to this day despite the game being released in 2013, to the thrilling chases and brilliant vehicle combat, Need for Speed Rivals was easily a top 3 in the series, in my eyes. That concludes my thoughts about this game, as well as the video. See you later.